How's everybody doing? All right. We're so excited that you guys are here tonight. My name is Jad. I host Radiolab and More Perfect. Thrilled that you guys are here. I'm actually just up here to do some basic housekeeping, which and then the people that are actually going to entertain you are going to come on to the stage. Point number one, there is booze out here. If you didn't notice, this actually supports journalism. So this is probably the only place in New York that actually that is true. So definitely get some booze from now until 8:30. Point number two, silence your phones. This is a chance for us to all have that rare thing, which is a communal moment together in a space. So silence your phones, though you can tweet as much as you want. Just keep it on silent. And then number three, who here's a WNYC member? All right, folks over there on the left. For all of you who are not, be like those people over here. Because everything that we do at Radiolab and at WNYC and here in the green space is supported by members. So become a member. And last but not least, tonight's experiment is funded by the Simons Foundation. Their Science Sandbox series, which is trying to get people to engage in science, is what has brought us all here tonight. So huge thank you to them. And I will now introduce a rising star at Radiolab and in podcasting and at WNYC and on planet Earth. Welcome, Molly Webster.
Planet Earth might have been a bit bold, I will just say. Thank you for coming. You get like the back end over there. I'm just gonna like organize a little. This is amazing. Hi everyone. Okay, so why are we all here? That is actually the question. And it starts 3 years ago, which is I was working on a story for Radiolab about international surrogacy. And so the story was there was a couple in Israel, Tal and Amir. They were married. They were both men. They wanted a baby. And so they decided that they would get eggs from the Ukraine. They would hire an Indian woman from India, and they would send all of these things along with their sperm to Nepal. And they would have the woman carry the baby for them for 9 months and then go pick it up. And so they did this with 2 different women. They got a lot of babies. And while I was doing the story, at first the story was very much just about like this couple that was trying to have kids and like what did that look like and how new families were forming. And all of these interesting questions started coming out of it. And one of the ones that really stuck with me is like, what does it mean to be a parent? Was it an egg? Was it a sperm? Was it if you donated some sort of genetic contribution? Was it the womb that carried the baby? Was it who wanted the baby most? Was it money? And I thought, wow, this is really interesting. There's like a lot happening just in this story. So I had like ringing in my ears. And right around this time, like DOMA passed. And so I was like, wow, there's a lot happening with families. Technology is letting us do a lot to like create new types of families. And it's also bringing up all these questions. So when that story was done, one of the next stories that I did was about editing DNA. And so there's this new technology called CRISPR, and you can edit DNA in ways you've never been able to before. And one of the things that came up was that you would be able to actually sort of change the future of human evolution, like what you pass on to the next generation. And so suddenly from that, I'm thinking to myself, man, what does it actually mean to be a human in the way that, like, if we were to alter something that, like, next generation wouldn't be us? And then I was thinking, like, what does it mean to, like, pass on things? So that story ends. Lots of questions. I'm really fun at a dinner party, by the way. And then I did a story about growing embryos in the lab in a petri dish. And it had me thinking, like, what is it? What's abortion if you take the woman's body out of the equation and you have these like embryos sort of separate in a lab? So I have all these questions rolling around. And I realized what was happening was that there was like a lot of new things happening in science, or things that were letting us sort of reimagine what it meant to make more of ourselves, like as humans, to just keep going on in different generations. And I got very, very excited about this. And I'll tell you, the thing that actually got me the most excited was twins, because I always thought, like, okay, we all know what twins are, right? It's like one egg fertilized by a sperm and it splits into two, or it's two eggs fertilized by two sperm at the same time, and you're like, okay, that's a twin. And then I realized that in vitro fertilization, what you actually do is create tons of twins in petri dishes in the lab, right? And then you freeze some of them. And so some of those twins are born, and then a few years later, you'll implant the rest of the embryos, and you'll get another baby, and you don't call them twins anymore, you call them siblings. And I was like, what? Like, your whole personal narrative has changed just because I put you in a freezer for like 4 years. And then I thought, and I'm a person, I really like thinking about families and relationships. I have a lot of sisters, siblings, all that stuff. And so I was like kind of losing my mind when even like fundamental truths that I thought were like biological, immutable facts were turning out to be wrong. So around maybe like my 10th pitch about some sort of story about humans making more of themselves, I think it was artificial wombs in a lab somewhere, Jad said, okay, hold up. Maybe what you should do is just do a series on human reproduction. And so that's what we're going to do. We're working on it now. It comes out this summer. I'm reporting it and hosting it. And so tonight is sort of the first step in that series. It's you're getting kind of a behind-the-scenes look at what is truly an experiment. And it's pretty fun. And we're super excited about it. So, be kind to us tonight. And I'll tell you, when I started reporting on the series, one of the first things I did was I just jumped on the phone with a lot of people like everyone in this room. I was like trying to hit like different age groups. I wanted 18-year-olds. I wanted like 80-year-olds. I was calling all my friends back in the Midwest like, hey, I haven't visited in a while, but if you could just tell me your thoughts on reproduction, like what's it like in the Midwest? And then I was very, I was like, oh, someone's, 20 and married in Colorado? Yes, I'll call you too. And I was basically just calling and saying, when I say the word reproduction, like, what do you do? Like, what do you think? Are you like, oh, God? Or, interested, not interested, babies, anything more than babies? One guy talked to me about hip hop, and I was like, I could go that way, probably won't. And so there were a lot of like very random conversations. And one of the things that came up in those conversations was a number. The number was 35. And it was very interesting to me. It took me a while to sort of notice the pattern, but I realized that everyone was bringing it up in different ways. It was like, oh, I don't know if there's not that much time left. Or, women would be like, I'm drying up. Like my biological clock, it's ticking. And I had friends who were like, we're renting our house, we should buy our house, and we're 35. And this all kind of came in a moment where, full disclosure, I was turning 35. And the funny thing is at first I forgot. And then I realized that I'm probably somewhat interested in this because it's currently happening to me. And I was like, just kept saying to my friends, like, my God, guys, I'm gonna be 35. That's so serious. And I don't really know what's serious, like more adult. I'm not really sure. But it felt like I gotta get my shit together. And so along those lines, we thought, okay, there's a lot of energy here. Let's just get it all in a room and see what comes of it. Okay, so I'm approaching the clicker. So when I was doing all those phone calls, one of the things that came up, or I was just going to say, like a lot of things came up, right? We're going to talk about them when we get to the kind of group discussion. But I did want to talk about one specifically. There was this idea that just kept coming up over and over again.
Advanced maternal aging.
The idea that at the age of 35, and in case you couldn't hear that, advanced maternal aging, at the age of 35, your fertility vanishes if you're a woman. It just goes up in smoke.
Like in every relationship, that I'm in, I feel like it's like this countdown clock in the back of my mind, you know? And so I feel like I experience time differently.
And Bianca, the young woman on the phone here, she wasn't the only one who told us about this feeling. It came up in another conversation that we had with this woman named Chloe. She said she really, really wanted to have kids. She was in a relationship. She and her partner got along great. Partner wasn't sure she wanted to have kids. And so on her 30th birthday, Chloe's dad sent her an email where he basically said, like, get on it.
The biological clock keeps ticking, especially if you want to have several kids. You don't want to split up with your partner because they've done nothing wrong, but the biological clock, ...
Thanks, Dad. It's very helpful on my birthday. And to add flame to the fire, I talked to another woman who saw 35 as such a deadline. She decided that she was going to have a kid by herself when she was 34. She wasn't going to wait. And she told me that the doctors categorized her in a way that really surprised her.
The minute you're 35, you're considered a geriatric mother. It's a condition that is it was written on my birth chart because I was due 2 weeks after turning 35.
So first off, geriatric? Like, are you kidding me? I mean, this is not the first time I heard the phrase, but like the idea that we take the age of 35 so seriously that if you pass it by 2 weeks, you are like put into a different category of human being seemed kind of crazy. And I have to say, it all seemed a little weird to me in the sense of like, I've never been a like, I want kids person, but I sort of like the option that one has. And so I kept thinking as I was like hearing all this stuff, I was like, I'm not freaking out about this stuff, but like, should I be freaking out about this stuff? And then last October, I was on the phone with this sort of bigwig doctor in St. Louis. And the minute we got on the phone, the first thing he asked me was how old I was. I said I was 34. And he said, you need to get on a plane and fly out here, and we need to freeze those eggs. And then I thought, fuck off. And then I thought, maybe when the series is done. And then I thought, you know, maybe I should be taking this all a little bit more seriously and actually look into this whole, like, reproductive cliff thing. So, started reading a lot of scientific articles, watching YouTube, and I pretty quickly found what seemed to be the culprit of the cliff. So the x-axis is age. It goes 20 to 45. And the y, the vertical line, is something called fecundability, which is the chance a couple will get pregnant after 1 month of trying. And this is what the graph looked like. It goes, and then there's like a fireball at the ends. So this is from a journal called Human Reproduction. It was published in 2004, and that is a cliff, if I've ever seen one. And I think another thing that I wanted to note is that on this graph, 33 is the age where you actually should start freaking out. 35, you're already done. But there's one tiny caveat, and that is that the data behind this graph is crap. Yeah, this data is based on French peasants from the 1700s. And you may ask, why them out of everybody? And the idea is that when they're doing fertility studies, they want, ideally, they say, populations of humans that have never used birth control. So people that are like pure from artificial hormones. And their idea was that these French peasants were the way to go. And so this came up, you might have seen this, it got written about in like a lot of different magazines, and it was the data being used to terrify women. And then so I just say, you know what, like I reject this cliff, because I'm done with it. And so at this point, I thought maybe I should stop watching YouTube and actually like call someone on the phone. And so I called an epidemiologist from Boston. Her name is Lauren Weiss, and she studies fertility. And we were having this conversation.
I know where the cliff came from.
There.
I know where the cliff came from. There was a very pivotal.
You do?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God! Tell me about the cliff.
So the cliff, I'm pretty sure, came from this review paper written by Broekmans.
who is this Brahmin guy and why does he get to draw a cliff on my fertility?
He's a very famous reproductive endocrinologist.
So after we got off the call, Lauren sent me the paper she was thinking about. This one is a study of recent people, and it has the same like axes. It's 20 to 40 is age on the bottom, and then on the side is your chance of pregnancy. And it goes, and then it's like a little, like a water slide at the end. And I thought, oh, that's kind of like a mesa. That's like a version of a cliff. And so then I thought, well, maybe this graph, I'm reacting pretty emotionally to it. Oh, wait, so I think, all right, anyways. So I was like, okay, this one, 31, my friends. We should have had this event 4 years ago. Sigh. But Lauren says it's not really based on great data either. Is it based on more peasants? No, I'm glad you asked. It is based on recent people, but it's all people that were at fertility clinics for fertility issues. So one could say it's a bit of a compromised data set. It's not really representative of everyone. So, graph gone. So back to where we started, begs the question, what happens if you actually look at an entire population or like a good cross-section of the population? And Lauren, the scientist who I was talking to, did actually do that. So in 2007, she launched a study with almost 3,000 Danish women who were trying to get pregnant.
We follow them forward in time for 12 months or until they get pregnant, whichever comes first.
And when you look at their data, this is what you see. Ooh, there we go. There with that. I feel good about that. Does anybody else? All right. So in this one, your fertility goes up for a little while. Right? I gotta get my clicking down. 30, it goes up till you're 30, and then when you're 35, you're actually just below the fertility you had when you were 20, which seems like that seems great. So I thought, all right, I'm reacting very emotionally. Tell me some numbers. And so they said for 20 to 24-year-olds, after 1 year of trying and having regular sex, which is actually like a technical term, so take that as you will, but I won't judge you, the chance of being pregnant,
78%. Okay. And if you're age 35 to 40, that percentage is 72%.
That feels like, oh, I'll take those odds.
Yeah.
So if you're in the 35 to 40-year-old age group here, as I am, that means you have a 3 out of 4 chance of getting pregnant. And you have to keep in mind, these are rough estimates. So obviously fertility is affected by age, but it's not the only thing that's affected by age. Miscarriage rates go up as you get older. Down syndrome rates also go up. So treat these like ballpark figures for now, but just in your mind, remember 72% for 35 to 40-year-olds. And so to me, this graph, it's like less cliff, more like English countryside. Like I will go get a pint on my way to pregnancy. This one actually made me want to call all those people we heard earlier on the phone and be like, psst, send this to your dad, right? But
now I should say that our latest research from the North American study shows stronger effects.
Not so fast, Webster. Not so fast. A couple of years after the Denmark study, Lauren and her team were like,
well, Denmark is cool, but what about other countries?
So they start the same study in US and Canada. That's a tricky one. Expected something else. my pages have gotten interestingly confused. This one, I felt sadder when I looked at it. I felt like this is like less English countryside, more like a mountain biking championship sponsored by Red Bull was kind of my feeling on this one. And this is what Lauren said.
It is steep. It's something you wouldn't want to take your kid on for a walk. You would want to wear a helmet and some protective equipment.
And do you think the different results is different parts of the globe? So like they're both truly representative of the area they're in, or like that one is wrong and it's really a line and not an uphill and then a downhill?
Oh, that is such a good question, Molly, and I don't know the answer to it.
It could be differences in diet and the environment and smoking. It could be just all that bike riding in Denmark. Who knows? We all just need to go to Denmark.
Exactly.
Honestly, it seems like I should have been having sex in Denmark when I was 30.
Exactly. That is the take-home message of our study.
Or I should not have been. And it was very good that I was in North America, depending on what you want your outcome to be.
Exactly. So the Danish study, I think, is a happier, cheerier study.
And it's true. If you look at the numbers for the North American study, they are lower. So if you're in the 37 to 39-year-old age range and you have sex, again, regularly for 1 year, you have a 67% chance at conception. Past 40, it drops to 55. So take that in. There are 3 things I took away from talking to Lauren. First, it's pretty obvious that there is no cliff. As another biologist I spoke with said, like nothing in biology is a cliff, right? It's all just like a gradual change. It's like a gradual decline with age. And in a way, there's something about it being gradual. It kind of lets you choose to freak out where you want to freak out. So in Europe, for example, based on all this same data, they wouldn't actually call you geriatric until you're 40. And in some places, it's 42. So if we were having this, if you were French, you would not be here tonight because you would not be concerned. The second thing I thought about with Lauren was that, obviously it's different for everybody, and these are just really big studies, and it's just averages, right? And the third thing was, like, even in the North American study, at like 40, 42, you still land at 50%. So it's not 0, which to me, I was like, hey, 50-50, that's not bad, right? But there was one part of the conversation with Lauren that made me think about 35 in kind of a different way. It started when she reminded me that there is, as much as I was happy about the 50-50, actually a biological deadline. What is the actual end?
Oh, the average age at menopause is 50 in the United States.
And so maybe the thing that's going on for a lot of people is it's not so much a cliff at 35, rather 35 is an age where sort of the end comes into focus. And as I was thinking more and more about the phone conversations I was having, I realized like, oh, this was playing out for everybody. Like, this is biology, but the people who were like wondering about their careers and their homes and their parents, like they were all sort of having the same like moment where they're like, oh, there's something happening here where I feel something in front of me, like in the way I never had before. It's like there's like this like little sliver of possibility before you all come back here in 5 years when you're 40 and we do this again for some reason. So what we're going to do now is we're going to invite all the panelists to stage so they can talk in some way about like this idea of like the sort of potential and the potent possibility that like exists around this age. So can I have all of my panelists come on up? Woo, woo, woo! Great. All right, so we've got Joe Osmundson, who has an amazing podcast, Food for Thought. He is a scientist at NYU, and he has some very good writings. We have Lily Benz, who is with Pilobolus Dance Company. Awesome. We have Miss Dulcé Sloan, who's with us here. She's an amazing comedian. And we have Sam J., who you met earlier, SNL writer and stand-up comic. So, Lily, I want to start with you. I am curious. I will full disclosure. Lily was the one who talked about her geriatric pregnancy on tape. So that's the way I'm going to introduce her.
Thanks, Molly.
Lily, do you want to tell us a little bit of a story about feeling like 35 was like the end of fertility?
Well, it is the end of my fertility. I'm planning for it to be the end of my fertility because on my 35th birthday, last May 25th, I went into labor with my baby boy, and I planned for him to be my only baby. You know, I have to say, I didn't think about 35 as the end of opportunity. I was more excited to have a child for so many years and just didn't want to wait any longer. And certainly was aware that, or thought that things would get harder, both in terms of getting pregnant, staying pregnant, and then giving birth and raising a child as I got older. So, where should I start?
I'm just curious. Did any of the things that we just talked about, were those charts that you saw in the doctor's office, or was it different?
I remembered, as you were showing those fertility charts, sitting in front of a fertility specialist, with her showing me the marked decline. Actually, a radical. Her age x-axis was just like the X going up. Or rather, as age went up, the fertility crossed it and went down in inversely proportional directions. So that was alarming. But here's what I've learned since. There's a giant industry around getting older women pregnant. Mm-hmm. And everyone should be aware of that. I was in her office. She had a beautiful office. Her name was Dr. Luck. I really recommend her to anyone here. I didn't even have any fertility issues, but I was there to ask advice about how to get pregnant. So to back up, to succinctly tell how I got to that office seat, I didn't want to wait any longer to have a baby. I didn't have a partner, and I decided, pretty much in a flash, after much debate, about a year and a half before that point, that I was going to go ahead and become a single mother by choice by using an anonymous donor to get pregnant and then to have a baby. So I was on my 5th cycle of intrauterine insemination, and that's how I ultimately got pregnant with Dr. Luck. And almost 10 months later, I gave birth to my boy, and that was 9.5 months ago. So 35 has been a wonderful year for me, and I think it will just keep getting better.
Joe, you just celebrated your 35th birthday.
Yes.
And I was made aware of that because I was looking at his Twitter, and he posted a picture of Cinderella turning back into a pumpkin and was like, "Today's my 35th birthday." There it is.
Yep.
So do you want to unpack a little, like what that meant?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me as a gay man, certainly there's the myth in the gay community that you sort of age out of attractiveness. And I sort of felt that connect to also aging out of being able to date. And my life has changed a lot in the last 12 months. And I was just thinking as we were talking that I had spent my 30th birthday, which is another sort of milestone, getting plowed by my boyfriend at the time, who was like gorgeous. And I was like, oh, what a time to be alive. I'm 30. And then I spent my 35th birthday, I went to work. I went to therapy, me and Dr. Eric. 35th birthday, I cried a lot. And then I came home and drank a bottle of wine by myself and tweeted.
That sounds like 35.
This is the result of that bottle of wine.
It was a great career move. I recommend everyone out there to tweet all of their feelings, and then they'll get them jobs. No, it was just the joke, and it was a joke, and at the same time as we worry that it's true. That I'm kind of going to be done, that like I might get more settled in my career, I might feel more myself than ever, but that in terms of filling out this other aspect of my life that has more to do with family, that the opportunity to I think also a friend of mine said the other day that by the time you turn 30, nonetheless 35, whether or not you're single, you have emotional baggage. Like you carry shit with you. And so like it's that idea of aging out of attractiveness, feeling too emotionally damaged to be able to open myself up to a new homosexual. My God.
Wait, I want to, Sam, you're nodding a lot. You're just you're like, oh, preach, Joe.
Yeah,
preach.
he's hitting all the right notes right now.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, that's 35. That's your 35th birthday. Wine, emotions, alone.
Twitter. Yeah.
It's typically how it goes.
I'm not 35 yet.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Get ready, bitch.
I just want to know, how you feeling right now, Dulcé? When do you turn 35?
Y'all are going through a whole lot. I turned 35 July 4th this year. Because my mother's down with holidays. I was born on July 4th. My brother was born on Thanksgiving.
Good job, Mom.
I mean, she just said God did it so she wouldn't forget our birthdays.
Mom's got jokes.
Yeah, that's where Dulcé gets it.
But no, like I think turning 33 for me felt more like a thing. Everyone's like, it's your Jesus year. And I was like, I don't know what that means.
But then once you found out what it meant, you were like, shit.
I was like, yeah. And I was like, I know I'm not getting crucified, so I think I'll be all right. Not dying for anybody's sins. But I think as I grew up Christian, I'm like, Jesus here. And I'm like, relax, calm down. I'm not the son of anybody. But I think I was never afraid of 35.
Yeah.
Because.
Are you now?
No.
Good.
Nah, y'all ain't gonna put this spirit of fear on me.
I don't think it's fear.
I'm not doing it.
I don't think it's fear though. I wasn't afraid to become 35 at all. I just think when I say that's 35, it's wine. It's not because of a fear thing. It's just like you're so much more settled in yourself,
right?
That you just don't have time for extra shit.
Like you don't.
So
need
it's like
turn
when you're 30, you run out and seek the party still. You're
right.
like, it's my 30th. I have to have a party. When you're 35, you're like, I don't give a shit, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna catch up on my Netflix. Like you're just like, I'm cool with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my 30th birthday was a doble quinceañera, so I'm a crazy person. I had the dress, I had the crown, I had the shoes, I had the chamblades, I had damas, I had everything. I'm not Latina. So but I grew up, like most of my friends growing up were Latinos. And so my homegirl was there to explain to my black family what the hell was going on. And then I had a drag queen perform. He put his nuts on my Uncle Joe. It was very confusing.
Man.
Wow. Can we get an invite to 35?
Thank you.
I don't know what I'm going to do. But, like, the thing is with me is, like, I've moved so much. Like, I started doing stand-up full-time in November of 2015. July of 2017, I booked The Daily Show. And then, thank you. And then I moved here in September. Mm-hmm. But February 2016, I moved to LA. Mm-hmm. And then I moved to my apartment September 3rd, 2016 in LA. September 3rd, 2017, I was moving to New York.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, shit. So like job stuff has always been so important, but I've wanted to be a mother since I was 6 years old. Mm. Mm-hmm. So it's this confusing thing where it's like, all right, I gotta find somebody to put a baby in there. Mm. But at the same time, last year was no broke dudes 2017.
Good job. How'd that work out?
Oh, the problem is broke dudes have the best D. We all know that.
I was about to say, you would have been pregnant by now if you were fucking with a broke dude.
Yes! Broke dudes never have a condom.
They have a lot of time to fuck.
They have a lot of time to fuck. They're fucking for a place to stay, and they're not gonna get me caught up.
I want to say that Joe agrees.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Broke dudes.
Everybody knows that. Yeah.
I had one this afternoon. It's like a bad.
Broke dudes always broke dudes will set you the fuck up. I plan to be on yachts. I can't. Bitch, I'm on TV. I can't be with somebody. But I don't get people you get pressure from your family. No. My mother wants me to be straight when I have a kid. As in, she wants me to financially be able to do it. My mother had me when she was 21. And my brother when she was 22. By the time my mother was 35, I was 14. And she got divorced when I was 3. So she raised us by herself. So when I think about the other day, I was like, fuck, when my mom was my age, I was 13. And my brother was 12. And she kept us alive on a daily basis. But now she's 56. I asked, she's 55, 56. And I said the other day, I was like, Mama, do you feel like an adult every day? She's like, fuck no.
Yeah.
How do you do that? She doesn't. But she also said to me the other day, we grew up together.
Yeah.
She was 21 when I was born.
Yeah.
So we literally grew up together. So seeing everything that she worked very hard. We always had Christmas. It's not like my mother couldn't provide for us. I was fat my entire life, so we ate very well. But knowing everything that my mom had to go through and that she couldn't do, because she had to, she left college. She got her certification. She did some nuclear shit. Some Homer Simpson shit.
That's a degree. Nuclear.
Right. So my mother, nuclear.
Homer Simpson
shit. That's what she told me. She's like, I did that Homer Simpson shit. So she got a degree in some nuclear shit, and then I came.
Yeah.
You can't tow the baby to a nuclear power plant. So you can, but she didn't. So
yeah. Joseph, you're nodding down there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking a lot of what you said about the tension between career and family, and that's something I think that, at least for me, I had notions of both of those things in my head around the age of 35. By the age of 35, my shit should be settled financially. I should have a job, a career, and I should have a family. And what I think has happened is the economy has always been bad, but it's changed so much that so many people our age have to move a lot. Right. And when you move a lot, you leave people behind usually, right? So it's we're dealing with all of these structural and economic differences in terms of how we have to make our lives, and changes that fundamentally make it hard to have a family.
Well, the good thing about me moving was that we moved in moving to LA, the 2 trash dudes I was messing with.
They stayed.
They're out.
Not only did they stay, one of them's engaged and the other one's already married. And I was like, oh, yeah. Because I called my mom and she said, good, praise God. Them when your husband's anyway. So now it's a different thing. Plus, it was good. I moved to New York. I'm probably going to have to find a husband here. I'm East Coast fine. So...
Lily, can I ask you, one of the things that we were talking about before the show was there's a lot of family discussion. One of the things we were talking about before the show is kind of not family always being blood.
Yes, I'm all about chosen family, huge advocate for gathering people around you, no matter what station you are in life. It is what I've been #blessed to be able to do. And my chosen family has 100% allowed me to do what I have done. I have not done it all alone. And in fact, I think I've had way more support than I believe most 2-person couples having kids often find themselves, or most birth mothers have themselves. Specifically, I was, interested in this idea, and a family of a mom and a dad and 2 young teenagers really kind of wrapped their arms around me and said, you should have a baby and we will all help you raise it. And I believed them, and I could go into a lot of stories about
I was
how we got
saying to
here,
Lily
but-
ahead of the show, I would just be alone in my apartment in Greenpoint, calling people I have a baby, will you come help me? And then they would all say no. And
No, I just think the human race didn't survive until this day with people having babies by themselves. We're not meant to do that. We have to gather people around us for support, even if we are successfully or unsuccessfully, as the case may be, partnered. So I'm on a big mission going forward to advocate for that kind of support and to show up for other people who are having babies as well. You can never give enough support, whether it's emotional or material or humorous or whatever. And the great thing about babies, just to market the experience a little more.
If anyone's on the fence, now's the time.
Oh, no.
Attention.
I'm going to convince you by the end of the night. Is that they have the effect of gathering people. They're like these little balls of love that glow and emanate the energy outward, and it just keeps building and building. And I'm telling you, my baby, I mean, I think he's incredibly special, but I don't think it's just him. But he has had the effect of like making family members nicer,
yeah, everyone's nodding.
less annoying,
Yeah.
people have bridged disconnects that were long-standing just to come around my baby, and he makes people fall in love.
Because new life is like
so
hope.
It's cool. Yeah,
That's all. It's like you see an undamaged thing, and you're like, oh man,
Let me damage
you
this.
can be like anything. Yeah.
The cool
And it's
thing about
exciting
being a
for
single mom
everybody
is,
'cause
like,
it's like,
I know who's
oh,
going to
hope.
be doing the damaging, right? There's like no question. Like it's all me.
Sam, I want to talk to you. You had like a very specific sort of 35 career trajectory that was well mapped out. Do you want to talk about that a little, or why 35 became the?
Sure. I think. So for me, I started comedy at 29, and I was doing a lot of shit before that just was very unfulfilling. And I was working at like an insurance company in a mailroom, and I was just like, oh, is this gonna be my fucking life, you know? And at 29, I was kind of like, okay, you have to start now changing some shit, because if you don't, you're gonna look up and you're gonna be 35. And I don't know why that was the age, but that was just the age in my head. I was like, you're gonna look up and you're gonna be 35 and you're gonna be in this cubicle with these people, and you're gonna be just as miserable as they are, you know, because like this is not a fulfilling life for anybody. Just coming in, clocking in, trapped in a fucking basement of an insurance company, delivering insurance mail around a fucking building. Yeah, it sounds tragic. It's terrible. And so for me, 35, so at 29, I said, all right, you're just going to put your head down and do stand-up. And, you know, you've given your energy to a lot of bullshit in your life. You've spent 8 years in Atlanta, like, getting drunk and going to strip clubs. Like, you fucked off enough time. You need to, like, focus on something, really work hard on something. And I kind of took it, like, by compartments. I was just like, put your head down for a year and just give this thing everything you have. And if in a year you look up and you're further than you were, put your head down for another year. And if you keep doing that and just taking it like that, then by 35, things should be dramatically different. And that was kind of my goal. I was like, I have to look at my life when I'm 35, and it has to look completely different than what the fuck is going on right now when I'm 29.
Yeah.
And I think 35 was the age for me, because it always felt to me that was the age where people who didn't make that turn yet, they were kind of what the fuck they were. I mean, there's always like these miracle people that like figure it out at 50. But like for the most part, I felt like, you know, like these 50-year-olds are like, oh, I do triathlons now. And you're like, what? But like for the most part, that's who I am now. I used to be a doctor, now I'm a triathlon motherfucker. You know, you're like, okay, I guess. But I felt like 35 for me was where most of the people in my life were kind of, that was what they were going to be. If they were still doing that office thing, that's pretty much what they did until forever, you know? And I just wanted a different life, you know what I mean? I wanted a life that felt fulfilled. And so I just made a 5-year plan. At like 29, I was about to turn 30, and I was like, you just got to kind of like start knocking these things down. And then around my 35th birthday, for some odd reason, I found my old like journaling comedy goal book, and I was looking through it, and it was like some of the shit that I had written down, it was like to the year. It was like right there. And I was like, wow, there's such a power in just manifesting what you want. Like saying it, believing you can do it, and then like going to do it. You can really like turn those corners in your life. You know what I mean? Which I think a lot of people feel trapped, you know? because you just get into the routine of things, and you get into the routine of survival.
Yeah.
Really, which is what I think the biggest part of it is just you get into the routine of surviving, and in that you lose yourself sometimes. So for me, by the time I hit 35, I just wanted to feel found. I didn't want to feel lost anymore.
Right.
That was like a huge thing. Because I was like, if I still feel lost at 35, I'm probably just going to say, fuck it. You know? Just, if at 35 I'm like, fuck it, then this is what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Dulcé, you had a very fast career ascent, too. Did you have some of these similar...
It's interesting because people think I had a very fast ascent. I decided to become an actor when I was 6 years old.
Okay.
So... And I'm 34 and now I'm on a TV show. So it's like, it wasn't that fast, y'all. But no, I decided to become an actor at 6. And then I did theater all through elementary school and middle school and high school. Got a theater degree, graduated with a theater degree. And fuck you assholes, because I'm using my theater degree. Stop letting people say theater degrees are useless. Bitch, I'm on TV. I'm on TV! Okay? My theater degree paying the fuck out. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I was shooting all day, okay? So I didn't start stand-up until I was 27, but that was because another comic told me I was a comic.
Oh, interesting.
And a friend of mine worked at a comedy club in Atlanta. I would go up there to bother her, and because she would let me in for free. And... it was just like, I'm not doing anything else. I would do plays around Atlanta, and I did improv for 2 years. And I would do these things that are called Full Tank Saturdays, where I would just go to different auditions and different workshops. Like, I was always, like, as soon as I got out of college, I was like, this has to happen. There's nothing else I'm going to do. And people are like, oh, you have a backup plan? No, I'm not having a back. This is the plan. And so I became a stand-up. I started doing stand-up at 27. Because another comic I met when I was 25 was like, you are a comic. And I was like, mm-mm. And he's like, I have a stand-up class, come take it. And I refused to do it because stand-up scared me. Because I was an actor. And so I was like, no, every time I'm on stage, it's not me and it's not my words. Stand-up's the exact opposite. So stand-up scared the shit out of me. And so he taught a comedy class, and for 2 years I kept running into him at different places. He made me take the class. Because it was like $300 and I wasn't working. And I was like, I don't have the money for this. And he's like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You're taking my class and I'm not going to make you pay for it.
Yeah.
So, and this is Big Kenny, by the way. He mentored me for 3 years. So when I started doing stand-up around Atlanta, I had a 5-minute set that a comic who had been doing stand-up for 15 years helped me write. So that's how I came out of the gate, was prepared. And so, and then I already had the theater training. So I knew how to perform on stage. I knew how to be on stage, and I had a 5-minute set.
I was just a comedic genius. I just want that noted.
For the record.
My rise had nothing, no level of support.
Negro,
like
I did not interrupt your story.
I just want that on the record.
I let you be a sad bitch selling insurance. I did not open my mouth.
Just want that on the record. Thank you.
Because I didn't talk about all the times I did bilingual customer service while I was doing stand-up. So I just tell people in 2 languages, I'm not turning their lights back on. We're not picking up your fucking trash. I worked a lot of places speaking Spanish. Come by this stucco. Like then I had a jewelry business. Then I did kids parties where they did like I was a bitch that worked and then hooked up with trash dudes. So this is this thing that happens.
There's certain parallels.
And so work was always the focus. And like people ask me now, it's like, does your mother pressure you to get married and have kids? It's like, no. My mother wants me to be stable. And I have had, as a stand-up comic, your life is not stable. Like, I performed in maybe 11 or 15 states last year. Men don't like it when you go on the road. Even if you're gone for 2 days, all of a sudden you get back, you met a new bitch. Nigga, I've been gone for 48 hours. Who did you meet?
Child, I can talk about that.
Right. So for me, it's always, okay, I'm working so much, I'm doing this. So it's because I do want to be married. I do want to have children. I want to have a stable situation just for me, but that's what I want.
Yeah.
I can't look at someone else and go, this is what you have to have. But what I also did not appreciate is my mother did not pressure me, but when I worked these day jobs, these people who have these lives that they hate would look at me and go, well, you in
I
your
don't
30s.
like how you pointed at me.
Because you were talking about the people at the job that you
it's
had.
fine. I'm just saying I didn't like it.
You know what? I'm here for confirmation. I'm not here for this. Fuck you, Sam Dre. So, but these people that were settling and just had to have jobs and didn't have careers, like there was one girl at work who would always, this one woman at work would always fuck with me. And she would just go, you ain't got no kids, you ain't got no kids. Because I'd be the only woman there in the office of 25 people that didn't have any kids.
Yeah.
And it baffled everyone. And one day I just said to this woman, no, I don't have any children. I'm not married, and I still live with my mother. Why would I have kids? And she goes, you ain't got to be married to have kids. I said, you didn't have to be married to have kids. And then my supervisor snatched me across the room. And I was like, this bitch started this. Because every day she's asking me why I'm not going to co-sign her mediocre life. Yeah. That's not my fault. I can't do what I do and have, because my mother already told me, if you catch a baby, I'm not helping. So you better have a
Catch
motherfucker
a baby.
there. Yes.
Wait, I gotta ask,
it's the
Joseph, you're
ultimate
down there
STI.
doing some great note taking.
Oh, yeah,
and
no,
I may be like pages behind at this
I'm
point.
mostly writing Find a Husband 2019 over and over and over again to try to manifest my dreams.
Oh, we out here.
If I do this, I'm coming to give you a motherfucking hug for getting me my husband in 2019.
Listen, I'm trying to catch one too. One of these fine Jewish men, we out here.
Yeah.
Bitch trying to be on the boat. Don't be broke.
Dulcé will
Jewish
be
men are
hanging
really
out
coming
after
up.
the show.
Jewish men are coming up.
Jewish men are the men of the time right now.
Oh, yeah, they out here.
Everybody wants one. Everybody's into them.
As long as they quit telling me they ain't really white. That whole dark meat situation, I don't know what that means.
I mean, it's one of their lines. It's how they
You don't
get it.
know really what I'm dark meat. I'm like, I don't really like chicken that much. So, what are you talking
He's just
about?
trying to finesse.
Joseph, one of the things that you told me about, talk to me a little bit about, you were talking about like, one of the things in Dulcé's story was someone helping her out.
Yeah.
And one of the things you had been telling me about before we got on stage was sort of being a gay man. It was very hard to find mentors, especially one born in 1983 in the middle of the AIDS crisis.
Yeah, it just went from the funniest moment of the show to the saddest.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Well, yeah.
That's usually what happens when I enter the room. It's fine. No, I mean, I can't think about being a gay man of my age without thinking of the effect of the HIV/AIDS crisis, both on how I think about life myself, because I was born in '83, which means that I never had a consciousness without HIV/AIDS being in that consciousness. So like I never had access to pleasure that wasn't, dangerous in the way that HIV is and not other things. And then also the generation of gay men just older, and it could have been me if I had been in New York City and had the access to all the dick that New York City had to offer
Hella
at 16. New York City has hella dick. It's
Where is
trash
it?
in every fucking way except for the dick.
I'm trying to find out about
I could have been in the generation of men lost to HIV/AIDS, but I'm not. I'm in the generation immediately after. And what that means is we don't have models of growing older. We just don't. Like that almost doesn't exist. And so I think that's one of the reasons that age feels like a cliff for us, just because we don't know what it looks like. I mean, it's only through I'm a scientist. There are not a lot of gay scientists. I don't have any gay mentors. It's only through my writing work that I've actually gotten some gay mentors, and actually having people who are 50, 55, 60. When I broke up with my ex and I thought that was gonna be my husband and I was devastated, I reached out to Alexander Chi, a gay writing mentor of mine who is 50 and found his, I didn't know when he found his. So I said, Alex, when did you meet your husband? And he said, when I was 46. And I started crying because I didn't know what it could possibly look like. There was no example. And so it's only really through the writing community that I've even found people at all who have models of like growing older and doing the creative work that they want to do. Alex also didn't get a tenure track job as a writer, so was broke as fuck, even though he was publishing novels until he was, so it's like looking at people manage to do all of those things and go through the shit. Life has ups and downs. And I think that one thing that's bad about straightness and nuclear family, like my parents had shit that was up and down, but they didn't show me that. Like I didn't see that. My parents went through really tough economic times, but I sort of like, it wasn't shared with me in a way. And so it's like as an adult, you look to your friends and people older than you to look at what it's like to actually survive a life, to like actually like live a life that has shit happen to it. And you have to get up and you have to go to work and you have to figure out what the next job is gonna be if you get fired. You have to figure out how you're gonna eat if the book that you thought was gonna sell didn't sell. And like all of that has just been missing from my life until like the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I think you really hit on a key thing of just representation being key, and seeing examples of yourself doing the things that you want to do, because if you don't have that, it's very hard to wrap your mind around that existing for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, because I think about that just being like a comic and thinking about when I'm going to have kids, how that's even possible really with what the hell I'm doing day in and day out. Like, how does this all really balance? And how do you have like a healthy relationship with somebody when you're kind of detached a lot? You're not present as much as, you know, a regular, I work 9 to 5, you work 9 to 5, we come home at the same time, we eat there. Like, I'm never going to really have a life that works that way.
And we're like the first generation of queer folk who can live sort of visibly and be publicly queer in our work. And what that means is that, again, there isn't a generation of folks who manage families. Queer families.
That's what I'm saying.
Us.
So you don't have like too many people to have that conversation with. Like, I met real quick. I like, it was me and Wanda Sykes were hanging out one night, and I was like, I hate to be weird, but I want to ask you, like, how do you do it? Like, how do you have a wife, you have kids, but you're still like actively doing stand up. You know what I mean? Like, how do you find the balance? And we had a really good conversation about it, but it hit me like, oh, she's probably one of the only people I can talk to this about, because there just isn't people I can talk to this about. And that's kind of shitty, you know?
Well, I kind of feel the same way, as in I was thinking about like when I think about like being married, I only had like really one good example of a Black married couple, and that was my Auntie Trina and my Uncle Joe. And when you talk about like family, like most of the family I had growing up were people that weren't related to me. Like one of my cousins didn't know that we weren't really cousins until she was about 15 and started doing the math. And she's like, well, who was Auntie Mary? And then she was like, she's trying to figure out whose sister my mom was. And then she realized my mom wasn't anybody's sister, and it kind of fucked her up for like a second, because she found out me and her weren't really cousins. So for me, it's like, okay, I don't have this example of that, because sometimes I think about, okay, being like the idea of being married and being in this long-term thing almost feels like somebody's going, all right, here's Dixie cups and toothpicks, go to the moon. And
yes,
that's how I kind of sometimes feel about it. And then also being a female comic, you don't see a lot of examples of female comics who are married with children on the road, queer or straight. And the fact that as a woman, people go, oh, so when you have kids, you're going to quit. How can I quit? That's how I live in this house. Like, I can't quit. Who gonna pay this mortgage? So, but it's the same thing as the representation. So I try to talk to female comics, like, you know, talking to Ali Wong and talking to Kira Sultanovich, and being like, how do you do this? Because for me, it's the representation on two sides. It's being a comic and being a Black woman and trying to figure out, how does this work? Because it has to work. Because I had no backup plan when it came to my job. I have no backup plan when it comes to this.
Well, it's an interesting, like, this idea of sort of your chosen family. Like, Lily, I think that's a really cool phrase. And, like, sort of what everyone's saying here is, you know, finding people, like, at this age, you found people to help you. You sort of settled into yourself more. You, like, grew into yourself. One of the reasons we wanted to do this is because, like, you have a whole bunch of people in the room who can sort of, like, represent themselves and sort of gather around each other. So we are going to have to end the panel part, but one of the things that I wanted to come from this, and it's kind of cool that the conversation got here naturally, is one of the things I've been thinking about is just that 35 has changed a lot, as we were talking about, between different generations. It looks a lot of different ways. Like, if you look at everyone in this room, if you look at the people on this stage. And so we have a homework assignment for everybody.
Everyone on this stage looks good as shit, by the way.
Yeah.
Look at how young these people look.
And
melanin.
We were all talking about our skincare treatments backstage.
And blackness.
Yeah. So what we're asking everyone to do is we want you guys to send in pictures of what your 35 looks like. And so for the audience members, you can send them to radiolab@wnyc.org, and you can just say like your first name, how old you are, and I think that's it. And the idea is to try and capture. We will eventually. The plan is to sort of release them onto the interwebs, so make sure it's something that you are proud of. But like capturing these different versions of sort of 35 and like the people and the families and the lifestyles we've gathered around us. I think in some ways so that we can remain pressure free. I'm no longer buying that like houses and cars are my lifestyle markers.
You live in New York.
I want someone to show me that it's otherwise. I threw the cliff out, and I'm going to also throw out those things, too. So
I've moved so much, I never thought, like, buying a house is something that's so foreign to me. Because when I was 33, I celebrated my birthday in Atlanta. 34 was LA, 35 was here.
Yeah.
So I think you have to attribute what was your goal? Like Sam set her goals out, that's what she wanted to have. You're given these things. If your goal is to live here, then I guess buying an apartment. I'm from Georgia. Buying an apartment sounds fucking crazy to me. But
I
just have to say, I just have to say in that vein, if your goal includes having a baby, you make it happen.
Oh yeah,
it will happen.
Pretty children,
make it
too,
happen.
girl.
Yeah. Okay, let's give the panelists a round. Thank you so much, guys. Yes. So I'm just going to say that sit here tight for 1 second, which is we have one more piece of this. We have a surprise guest. So the surprise guest will be announced after you give them big applause. So while we start to clear off the stage, our surprise guest is the musician B. Beeman. And so he is a musician we love from San Francisco. He happens to be 35. He was in town last night for a concert at Carnegie Hall. You'll hear his work. He's like a really amazing singer-songwriter, and he combines like pop, R&B, folk, socially conscious music. And so he's going to come to the stage, and he's going to sing us a couple of tunes to get us out, and also reflect a little on being 35 and a dad.
What's up, everyone? My name is B. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't know if I'm supposed to start talking about being 35 or something. What am I? Okay. Nobody wants to hear me talk, I guess. Sound like my parents. Is that coming through? This is a song called Equal and then by T. And it's out of tune. 1 second. I met a girl today, she tasted like the finest Mexican wine. I like Mexican wine, and I asked this little flower if she would be all mine. She said, hell no, I need a man to treat me like a queen all day and night. Need a man with money, style, power, prospects, a man looking for a wife. And I said, bitch, just wanted a kiss. You got yourself an unrealistic wish. Looking for a man who's all that and a bag of chips. Well, I must have struck a chord or something, 'cause pretty soon our hearts is thumping. She grabbed me by the hips and we locked lips. I didn't know it, but I'd found my future wife. She gave my dart its fin and gave my eyes their sight. Hey baby, you're the equal in my teeth. Hey honey, you can take as long as you need to satisfy me. And this little thing, she told me she pregnant with my baby, and that's for sure. And I say, what you gonna do? And she say, Well, I don't know, I feel so scared and all alone. And I say, girl, you've got me, and that's for sure. I knew right then that I had found my future wife. She gave my heart its stent and gave my daughter life. Hey baby, you're the equal in my teeth. Hey honey, you've been taking your sweet time to satisfy me. The army drafted me and the war became my life. I fear the worst out here, but God is on our side. Hey baby, you're the air in my flat tire. Hey honey, I seen men sent home boxed up by friendly fire. I met a man today, he told me the secret to the Mideast peace resolve. You gotta let that man-made problem self-evolve. And as for Iraq, they're just lines on a map jotted down by some limey wanker for sure, sharing a long, hearty laugh about the curve. I knew right then this man was quite the bitter fruit. He mute my mood view that Islam would follow suit. Hey stranger, you got moxie out the ass. Hey buddy, these Yankee Franks, you know their empire won't last.
So, like Molly said, I am 35, and I'm a father, and it's being a father is great. It's the hardest thing I've done. I guess it's like low-grade work for like ever all day long, 24/7. Anybody who's a parent can attest to that. It's not like hard. It's just like mentally all day long. So, but it's the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life, and I strongly recommend it if you like children. If you don't, then I guess not. And being 35, I was thinking about it. I was like, that's one of my songs. What the fuck's going on? That's my song playing. Is that being ushered off the stage right now? What's going on? No Googling me while I'm playing on stage right now. No, but seriously, you gotta stop that. Or leave. No, I didn't mean, she's leaving. I didn't mean to be mean. But that was my song. That was pretty funny. So I'm 35, and I was thinking about it. It's like you kind of go through like a second puberty. Like you lose hair. Hair starts coming out of your ears and your nose and shit. It's like all weird. But yeah, I thought that would go over better than it did, but it's okay. People are like, gross. Not funny. And this next song, transitioning over, this next song I'm going to play is a brand new song. And it's about family. It's got definitely a political twist. I mean, you hear about immigration, deportation. A lot of people maybe don't see it happening, but it's happening. And it's very personal. And I wanted to tell a story, a family story, about real people. And this is a song called Beyond the Border.
Packed my bags and took the blame. Put my house in my daughter's name. Now my life's gone up in flames. Just beyond the border, kiss my baby last goodbye. Wipe the tears out from her eyes. Now she's left to wonder why. Just beyond the border, it's like we're an outbreak, and they are the treatment. They give us heartache and keep all the freedom. It's like we're an outbreak. It's like we're an outbreak. All my family's dead and gone. This side of the fence I'm on, I asked my wife to please hold on. Just beyond the border, all my nightmares just came true. Down here there ain't shit to do. I picked a nasty habit too. Just beyond the border, it's like we're an outbreak, and they are the treatment. They give us heartache and keep all the freedom. It's like we're an outbreak. It's like we're an outbreak. I've been saying all along, I've been saying all along that something's wrong. Everyone's lost their goddamn mind. Everyone's lost their mind. It's like we're an outbreak, and they are the treatment. They give us heartache and keep all the freedom. It's like we're an outbreak, and they are the treatment. They give us heartache and keep all the freedom. It's like we're an outbreak. It's like we're an outbreak. I've been saying all alone. I've been saying all along that something's wrong. Everyone's lost their goddamn mind. Everyone's lost their mind.
Thank you so much. I've been told to spell my name on stage, so I'm going to do that for you. I have a Hindu name. It's Beeman. It's Bhiman, and it's just Beeman. You don't have to worry about that H or that I. And I'm going to play a song called Gutter Snipe now for you. Unless I'm supposed to say something else. It's about. No, you're about does it. Okay.
I jumped the first train I saw. It'll surely take me home. If I had a mama, at least I'd have a place to go. But I'm just a gutter snipe. I got no place to wipe my nose. I jumped the first train I saw. It'll surely take me home. A buzzard riding the rail. I steal my meals when all else fails. I'm riding home on the line, but I'm well on my way to feeling fine. I've been to Juarez, I've been to Houston, Baton Rouge. And I've got some good friends, some folks to really help me through. And I've been all over. I spend my time just like I do. I stay out of trouble, but it's got a way of finding you. A buzzard riding the rail. I steal my meals when all else fails. I'm riding home on the line, but I'm well on my way to feeling fine. a buzzard riding around. I steal my meals when all else fails. I never heeded the sign, but I'm well on my way to feeling fine.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, B. So that is the end. I want to thank the Science Sandbox at the Simons Foundation. I would like to thank Jad Abumrad. I would like to thank Pat Walters, my editor. I would like to thank Rachel Cusick, our producer. If you want to find out more about the Radiolab series, the reproduction series coming up, you can sign up for our newsletter. You can text 70101. That's right, 70101. Or go to radiolab.org/newsletter, and you can sign up. The bar is open, so go have a drink. And I want to bring the panel back up and thank them. Dulcé Sloan from The Daily Show, Sam J. from SNL, Lily Benz from Pilobolus, and Joseph Osmundson. Thank you so much. That's it.